Thanks for sharing your garden with us. We're going to be talking about a lot of great plants for wildlife and all sorts of stuff during the wintertime. A lot of people think about the winter as being a downtime. Not so. Lots of cool things to plant. I'm joined by Michelle Pfluger from Green and Growing. It's great to have you with us.
It's great to be back. I'm glad you've made it.
Always nice to have you with us. You've brought a trio of beautiful grasses, which during the fall and the winter months really provide a show. We're going to start with what I think is everybody's favorite grass, which is Gulf Muley. The pink flowers or efflorescence on this, amazing.
It is. It is probably the most popular ornamental grass in our area for a good reason. Does an amazing fall show, and that color kind of and structure continues through the winter until you cut it down in January, February.
Right. And these are plants that are well adapted to a variety of settings. Once Gulf Muley is established, it will last for a long time.
It will. Gulf Muley is a very long perennial grass, and like you said, good drainage, even poorly drained spots or seasonally moist spots, it will grow there.
Yeah, hence the word Gulf.
Yes, that's always a good clue if it comes from the Gulf Coast.
Right. But again, a terrific addition to our plant palette here in Central Texas. And there are lots of muleys to choose from, but this is one just for the color alone.
It is
absolutely
very distinctive. Yeah, it's
and
beautiful.
Right next to it is a form of maiden grass. There are a lot of maiden grasses on the market. This is a plain green variety, but I love again the flowers or efflorescence on this.
Yeah, this is Adagio, which is the one you see most commonly in the large commercial landscape. So a lot of people are looking for it, trying to identify it. Beautiful grass, great winter structure in the landscape.
Yeah. And striking seed heads on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things about maiden grass that I really like is it's a great kind of sponge plant for the garden. If you have wet areas where you want a plant that can really absorb that and take it near a downspout, for example, this is a great plant for that kind of space.
It absolutely is. Yeah, they have a huge root system. They are a little more high water than the other grasses I brought, but they're fabulous for areas that you need to soak up moisture for rain gardens or anywhere that would work good.
You have a grama with you, this is the blue grama, and talk about striking seeds.
This is one of my favorite grasses. It's a native grass. It's through an extensive range of Texas. It does well through a large variety of climates through Texas and the Southwest. And it's a nice small grass. It gets about 2 by 2, which is a great size. Very usable in containers in the landscape and the health strip between the sidewalk and the street. One of my favorites, and absolutely beautiful seed heads.
Yeah, and they kind of look like little musical notes or something.
Absolutely. So I feel like they look like little caterpillars. I've heard all sorts of things. Really charming.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Love it.
You also brought a variety of yucca that should be planted a lot more. And I've used this in the past and I was thrilled with it, but I almost never see it in the garden. It's banana yucca.
It's my favorite yucca right now. It has such strong structure, almost more like an agave than what we normally think of with a yucca, but it's a nice small size. It fits in most yards. It has the beautiful white inflorescence in the spring like most of the yuccas, and I agree with you. It is one of the most beautiful yuccas, really underused.
I love the way that kind of splits off the hairs coming off the foliage.
Yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And just containers in the landscape wherever you want it.
Yeah, the color goes so well with a lot of different things, blends well with purple flowers and deep colored foliage, things like that.
And I just love to do more silver with it. I just love that silver and blue.
Right, and it's a terrific plant.
Yeah.
Now, you have brought a mixed pot of annuals that people love. This is a great thing for pollinators during the wintertime to have them.
This is, in our area especially, we're very warm over the winter. A lot of your bees, your small pollinating flies, etc., are active and moving, and these winter flowering annuals, pansies, violas, calendulas, sweet alyssum, their stock in this container as well. Not only do they add a lot of color to your pots and your beds when they're kind of empty, but they do help provide some food for those, especially going into spring as we warm up. They're great to have them ready and active when your other fruiting plants are coming into bloom as well.
And some of them can provide food for humans as well.
A lot of the winter flowering annuals are edible. Pansies, violas, snapdragons, dianthus. I think more of those are the ones right off top. Calendulas, and of course nasturtiums.
Have a very colorful salad this winter.
For sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, you also brought in a mistflower, and we're talking about pollinators and plants for wildlife. We've got to talk about the mistflowers.
Yes. Mistflowers are one of the best butterfly attractants. This is the fragrant mistflower. This is a white flowering mistflower that blooms concurrently with the major monarch queen migration.
Right.
So I like to plant this one in the fall. While it is a perennial that will go dormant over the winter, that has a plant that's much better established next fall in time for the migration. So you have a big plant that's ready and full of bloom when those monarchs and queens are coming through and looking for food. And the flowers are beautiful.
I remember planting this in one of my gardens and going out there, and it's like a motorcycle gang of queen butterflies.
It's incredible. I mean, you will just, it's incredible how many butterflies come. And another species of pollinating insects as well, but it is incredible.
Okay, well, there's a native that I don't think I've ever talked about, which is snake herb. And you were just telling me all sorts of stuff about this plant. And I'm wondering, how come I don't know about it?
I don't know. This is the most underutilized native ground cover plant. I adore snake herb. I always am recommending it to people. It is native here in the Blackland Prairie region, which is a lot of central Texas, and it can take those poorly drained clays.
Yeah.
It's also exceptionally drought tolerant. When we were going through those severe droughts a few years ago, my snake herb in my unwatered beds was green and lush and blooming when everything else looked terrible. And that is just something you cannot deny. Right. And it also looks great when we're having heavy rains. It doesn't go out like some of the more dry adapted plants do. Makes a thick ground cover. It does help keep weeds out. The flowers, it's only blooming a little bit here. It's more of a spring, early summer bloomer, but it does bloom off and on. Very attractive to insects, very attractive to hummingbirds as well.
Hummingbirds? You don't think of hummingbirds on a short plant.
You don't think of them, but they definitely come to it.
Well, great plant. I am definitely going to be adding this to my...
You need to.
Yes, I love the color of the bloom, by the way. It's awesome. Yeah. You brought a hanging basket, which is wire vine, and again, this plant is new to me.
This is a great plant. I like it in winter containers because we're often looking for more trelling plants in the containers that will be green and have some nice texture. Also for shadier spots, which can be a little more challenging in the winter. This is a really beautiful vine. It will kind of conform to the shape of the container, which you can see here.
Right.
It is evergreen down to around 22, 25. So sometimes some of the colder freezes you may need to protect it, but it's cold hardy through that, but it just may lose its foliage.
Okay, to my eyes, it didn't look cold hardy.
It doesn't look like it would be, but it is, yes.
Okay, so yeah, it may go down to the ground, but be patient.
But be patient. It also makes a good ground cover in flower beds.
I love the native sumacs. You brought one of the evergreen forms, and this one actually has some bloom on, and this is also a great plant for pollinators.
This is an incredible butterfly plant, and pollinators in general, bees, when they're blooming, this plant will be humming with pollinating insects, with butterflies, queens, sulfurs, monarchs. My monarchs come to it like crazy. It blooms right through the major migration period. And these flowers are followed by these wonderful red berries, which are beautiful through the winter and also feed the birds. It's just a good wildlife plant, and great evergreen in the landscape.
I think of it, it can be a good screening plant as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those plants, it's right transitional between large shrub, small tree. I use mine are my privacy screen in my backyard.
Yeah. Do you shear them at all to keep them thick?
I have seen them use sheared, and they seem to do that really well. Mine are natural. But I've absolutely seen them sheared and kept thick, and they look great. Yeah,
because a lot of people are doing that now. They're taking plants that I would never have thought to shear. For example, like mountain laurel.
Yeah.
And the effects can be really striking.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the native shrubs for years were just grown very loosely, but you can do a lot with trimming to keep them tighter and have a more formal look. Yeah. And they work really well for that.
For the psycho-pruners amongst us.
For those who love to prune, you can prune more freely.
I've been accused of that in the past.
I am not on the pruning fence, but I work a lot.
Okay. Well, you also brought a plant that I remember talking about this, I think, one of the very first Central Texas gardeners, and I got so excited and I ran out and used some in my garden. Equisetum, or the scouring reed is another name for it. Horsetail, a bunch of common names.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I love this plant in containers because it has that really dramatic upright form, and it's great in pots. It also kind of holds it in bounds, because the fun thing about scouring reed,
I'm glad you mentioned that,
is it definitely will spread wherever it can.
Yeah.
Which I like it in containers. I also like it in thin, confined spaces, like that little strip between the sidewalk and your house. It's very
Exactly.
narrow. Anywhere like that, they'll kind of hold in place. It also is extremely tolerant of wet or seasonally moist soil. So
Right.
sometimes that's something that people need in our area,
Yeah.
and that's a plant that can do that.
And I love the fact that you mentioned in those narrow spaces. I think the most beautiful planting of this I've ever seen was in a long strip that was completely contained above ground, and they kept it trimmed at top.
Yeah, you can-
gorgeous.
It is really beautiful used that way. It
Right.
really uses that vertical form.
But beware if you plant it in the ground.
Don't,
It tends to move.
I normally say put it somewhere confined.
Okay. Well, Michelle, as always, thank you so much for joining us, bringing all these cool things with you. Green and Growing Nursery, and I hope that folks will visit you.
Yeah, they should.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks again for being here,
Thanks.
and it's time for Daphne.